I'm doing good. It was great to see Mark Stoops as a top 15 head coach. It
There
was
he
also
is.
painful because he was so close to the top 10, right there on the cusp. What was the difference between him and PJ?
Well, if he would have produced the type season that I expected him to produce, I'm sure that he would have been ahead of PJ and maybe even still Josh Heupel, because I'm not going to just skyrocket. Josh Heupel obviously had a much better season, and even if Stoops won two more games, Heupel had still significantly the better season. But I just don't believe in, okay, one season, boom, you're there. So I did knock him back a tick or two for not delivering a great season this year. I thought that this was going to be more in the 9-3 range.
Like you
Yeah.
brought up Josh Heupel at Tennessee. Tennessee has had historic success. So even though I would say right now he's done a better job, historically, Kentucky has never been to the level where Tennessee is at. So Tennessee, I believe, has more advantages than Kentucky. And the fact 7-5 is considered disappointing for Kentucky
Yeah,
is
that's
astounding.
to his credit. Exactly. He has brought them to a point in 7 or 8 years where 7-5 was like, oh, we just had a great season. We're going to a bowl game. To 7-5's disappointing. So that's to his credit that it's disappointing. Exactly. I am right there with you that he has brought Kentucky to a level of expectation. Oh, based on his record, I think I've got it still in my brain from going through these rankings. I think he's 59-53, and he's like 32-50 in the SEC. Sure, if he had that record at Tennessee, he would not be number 11.
That's fair.
He'd
That's
be
fair.
35.
But I think what, in my opinion, what separates Stoops from PJ Fleck is PJ Fleck hasn't brought Minnesota to that level yet, in my mind. Where seven
He
and five is
hasn't.
where 7-5 is considered a disappointing season.
Do you consider 3 football seasons to be fairly significant in establishing some kind of pattern that you've arrived at a certain level?
I do.
PJ Fleck, his last 3 full seasons is 11-2, 9-4, 9-4.
Yeah, I agree. But Mark Stoops has done it just for longer, is all I'm saying.
But he hasn't consistently gone 11-2, 9-4, 9-4.
No, but he's had, what, one or two 10-win seasons?
One?
One in 2018. He had one
No,
last year.
yeah, they did last year. They went 10-3, 10-3 twice. Okay.
That's for Kentucky. That's pretty good.
Well, PJ Fleck's at Minnesota.
Yeah, I know. But how many
It's
10-win
roughly the
seasons has he
same.
had?
It may actually be more difficult at Minnesota because he's got less football players in contiguous states, where Mark Stoops doesn't have a lot of players in Kentucky. I actually saw an NFL listing of what states produce the most players, and I was surprised that Kentucky just does not produce NFL players. But anyway, he is bordering Ohio, Pennsylvania, and he's gone into Michigan. Like, he's gone places both north and south to get players, where PJ Flex, he's kind of in the middle of nowhere.
That is true. Fair enough, Mark. Fair enough. I thought I would just lobby for my guy, Mark Stoops,
Just to inch him into the top 10.
Yeah, probably the greatest football coach Kentucky's ever had.
Yeah.
And probably will be the greatest football coach Kentucky's had or will have for a long time. So,
Yeah, I took a few shots on the comment section, not during the live stream, but when I posted the video on PJ Fleck. And I, of course, invited those people to call in the show.
yeah. Mark, I normally give the Pac-12 a lot of grief, as you know. But I'm going to defend them in one case. I'm going to do something I almost never do. I'm going to defend them.
Okay.
Jimbo Fisher needs to be behind Chip Kelly.
I'm okay with that. I'm not going to argue that vehemently. I've got Jimbo at 34, Chip at 37. But let's not completely overreact to one season. Like, I reacted to that season. I'm trying to find where I had Jimbo last year. I bet I had him maybe at 20. He is a national championship winning coach. And that was
Yeah,
a
I know,
long
but that
time
was a
ago.
decade ago.
I know, but he still has to be given some level of credit for that, even though it's a current ranking.
At what point does winning the national championship almost become irrelevant? Because it's been a decade ago.
Well, in terms of accomplishments, it never becomes irrelevant. It's a national championship. Those are tough to come by.
I understand. Okay, is the championship just carrying him so heavily, in your opinion?
No, he's 34th. He's average. There are
Yeah, and in
69,
my opinion, he's below average.
but there are 69 coaches on this list. That makes him dead even average.
Yeah, and he's not an average coach to me. He's below average.
Well, he has not performed below average up until this season.
For me, okay, at Texas A&M, for every resource he has possibly been given, I don't think he has lived up to the standard that most coaches in that role can do.
Well, you can make that argument. However, Texas A&M has never won anything.
I understand that, Mark, but that does matter in some sense, but they are giving him everything they wanted. They have given him the keys to the city.
I'm
And
not overreacting to one season.
It's not just one season, it's all the 8-4 seasons that he's had as well. He's never been on the cusp of even a playoff appearance, which was expected to be the bare minimum when he entered there.
But I don't want to let the amount of money that he's being paid get in the way of how I'm ranking him. I'm not ranking like I evaluate Texas A&M making a poor decision. I made the comment, I don't know if you were on the line yet, that if Jimbo Fisher had been handed, like Texas A&M has handcuffed itself by the amount of money that they gave Jimbo Fisher. If they would have given him something reasonable, like, okay, you're a top coach, but you got to prove something. We're going to give you a limited contract, 4 years, $7.5 million a year. You're still a top 5 to 10 paid coach, but you got to do it here. They would be able to buy themselves out of that, and he'd be gone. He'd probably be fired now.
I would hope he'd be fired now.
But they have handcuffed themselves by the amount of money.
Yeah, that's not my fault or your fault. That's Texas A&M's fault that they're going to have, in my opinion, a below average coach for probably the next 5 years.
So I'm not going to hold that against him. I'm ranking him basically saying, okay, here's a guy who had a great run at Florida State, albeit with great players that he recruited and had, a top level brand program there and won at a high level, left there and goes to Texas A&M. They back up the Brinks truck. He elevates their recruiting. They were already recruiting well, but he has upgraded it significantly from Kevin Sumlin. And I'm not just talking about the one NIL related number 1 class. Before that, he was Sumlin was bringing in top 15 classes. Jimbo was pushing top 5 classes. And he didn't win more than Sumlin. Sumlin was bringing in 7-5, 8-4 regular seasons too. So I was kind of waiting for, okay, when's the breakthrough? When's the breakthrough? When's the breakthrough? And it didn't come. Well, we have to give them some level of credit and him some level of credit for 9-1 and a top 5 finish and an Orange Bowl win in 2020 to some degree. Okay.
Yeah, I get some credit, but we need to put that season in context, though. He wasn't exactly playing the elite of the elite that season.
No. But if we looked at a lot of teams that produce those kind of records, they may have caught a break as well.
Yeah, but I believe that season he only played, 1 or 2 teams that were above 500?
Mm-hmm.
That's not great. Now, I know it was an SEC-only schedule, but still.
So where should Jimbo Fisher be ranked?
40s?
Oh, you're knocking him down 6 spots. Okay, I'm catching hell for 6 spots. Now, that may sound significant, but I think you get this because we've had this conversation about a bunch of rankings in the past, including the top 25. Between 25 and 45, put a blanket over all those guys. It's close.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Next season, okay, going into it, what hope does Texas A&M have? Because for me, as an outsider of Texas A&M, As long as they got Jimbo Fisher as the head coach, I see no hope for them to do anything they want to do.
If I had power at Texas A&M, if I was one of these big money guys or I was in the administration and, that buyout's obviously dropping considerably by the year. And I think they should take a lesson from what Wisconsin did with Paul Chryst. They didn't give him the entire buyout. They basically said, here's, it's supposed to be, let's say 21 million. They gave him like 14 million and said, be happy with this. We don't want to be in some big legal battle. Take it, go, bye. And he did. So they don't need to pay the 80 million, make it 50. And 50 million to Texas A&M is probably the equivalent of 14 or 15 million at Wisconsin. Come up with that money. And if he doesn't deliver like a really strong season, and I'm thinking 9-3, top 15, they're playing tight games against Bama and whomever else is on their schedule that's tough. I don't know who they play in the East. If they're not delivering that kind of season, bye.